Welcome to our daily Forex market analysis, and this is for trading on June the 17th, 2020. Just a quick disclaimer here before we get started. This is for educational purposes only. Trading is a risky business, so please be careful with your money. As usual, we'll start off by taking a look at our calendar here. And today we did see the retail sales numbers out of the US came in way above expectations. And as a result of that, we have seen the stock market go up. However, we did hear from Fed Chair Powell as well. And in today's testimony, Powell essentially said that the unemployment is likely to remain high and US is going to see a drop. So no growth, there will be negative GDP numbers. So they're looking for basically economy to go down in spite of all the stimulus and everything else. And that caused the stock markets to drop a bit, and they wobbled back and forth based on that. Now, we did also hear from President Trump. There were comments that US is going to maybe provide about $1 trillion worth of stimulus, and this would be in terms of infrastructure spending. So that's supposed to be good for the economy, and that also supported the stock markets today. But like we have talked about this previously, stock market this week, stock markets, the US stock markets are going to be very, very volatile. So part of the reason is the options expiries that are part of this week. On Friday, we have a bunch of option expiries, and then there's also the testimony from Powell. So he will be speaking every single day in front of the Congress, and as a result of that, when we hear from him, positive comments are moving the market upwards. And as we've seen today, some of the negative comments are causing the stock markets to drop. And with that, we are seeing the same reflected in the Forex market as well. So all the yen crosses and everything else are being impacted by what's going on in the stock market. So we'll have to keep an eye on stock market as we move forward here. So let's get into what's coming up in terms of the news. We do have, coming up here, we have trade balance numbers from Japan. That's supposed to get better. And on Wednesday, ton of data here. CPI numbers out of UK. And right now they are slightly below expected. So I'm not expecting this to really have much of an impact. So all these CPI numbers here are not likely to make a big difference. Again, the Powell's testimony will be important here, and we'll have to pay attention to that. And then we also have employment numbers out of Australia. And at this point, there is supposed to be a small decrease here, and unemployment rate is expected to go up. So if we are within reasonable numbers here, I wouldn't expect much to change. But let's say the numbers come in positive here. So instead of a drop, there's actually addition of jobs. That will be good for Australian dollar, and we may see Australian dollar go up. And same thing here for New Zealand. We are expecting a drop in the GDP, but that is to be expected with everything shut down. GDP is expected to drop for the quarter, but if it's not as bad, then that will be positive for the New Zealand dollar. If it's worse than this number, I wouldn't really hold my breath there. It's not likely to have too much of a negative impact because it's already priced into the market at this point. All right, so let's go on to our charts here. We'll start off with euro dollar. So with euro, we did see that price went up, but then it got into resistance and has bounced off of this 1.1350 level. So today we do have a bearish candle close, but if we take a look here, this is still trading within this range. So for the last 4 trading days, price has held within this range. So now I would be, so market is range bound at this point for euro. We do have a bearish candle close, but I would not, at this point, I'm not looking for a big drop unless we see the stock market go back into the risk off mode. So right now this is neutral. And in this case, what I would be looking for, the first thing I'd be looking for would be a retest of the low. And if price holds above, then we are likely to see a move back higher and potentially just stay within this range. So neutral bias here. Now, if price does break through the support here at 1.1220, only then would I look for another move to the downside. So for now, though, even though we have a bearish candle close, this is still stuck in a range and it has to get out of the range before we can see what type of direction it wants to go in. So at this point, bias is neutral, and I would look for price to retest 1.1250, and then if it holds above, I'd be looking for it to go back up. So neutral bias for euro dollar. Pound dollar here, this one we do have a bearish candle close. So we have pin bar here on the daily, and as such I would be looking for a drop here. So we have heard a lot of news, or some news actually I should say, around Brexit here, and basically they have said that they're not going to apply for an they're not going to apply for an extension for Brexit. However, the negotiations will continue on into July. So at this point, everything is the same, and we'll have to just keep our ears open to see how these negotiations go as they start to meet back up again. So at this point, just purely based on technicals here, I will look for a bit of a pullback potentially into 1.2620 level, and then if price holds below, I'm looking for a drop into 1.2450. Like I said, with the stock markets being very volatile this week, we are likely to see all of that kind of come across into the Forex markets as well. So I would be careful with trading anything right now. This week is an extremely volatile week. So just keep just make sure that, keep your position small, and you're actually looking at, making sure take your profits. So that's very important. Okay, so in this case, bias is bearish. Target is 1.2450, and only if it goes through that, 1.2380. So bearish bias right now for pound dollar. Aussie dollar here, this one is looking neutral. We do see that price dropped today. It came into the support here and has bounced up. So it went up, it dropped. It's been all over the place. So quite volatile at this point. Bias is neutral. What I'm looking for here is, again, the support. If price holds above 0.6840, then we're likely to see a move back up and potentially either range bound, or it could go back into the high. So at this point, my first look will be to see if it retests the support and holds above. If it breaks through the support, then I'm looking for price to move lower into 0.6780. So bias is neutral at this point for Aussie dollar. New Zealand dollar, we have a similar type of move here that we saw in Australian dollar. We did see price go up as a momentum was picking up yesterday, but today we do see that it came down and moved back up again. So in this case, neutral bias again, and I will be looking to see if price will retest the support here, and if it holds above, then we're looking for price to go back up. So for now, bias is neutral. I'm looking for price to move into 0.6385 level, and if it goes through that, then I'm looking at 0.6340. So neutral bias for New Zealand dollar as well. Dollar CAD here, this one is looking bearish still. So we can see price has been making lower lows and lower highs in this case since yesterday. So bias is still to the downside. First target here is the low of today, which is 1.3500, and then 1.3450 back into this area here. So bias is bearish for dollar CAD. Now, same thing applies here as well. If we don't see a drop through the support, this one can go back up as well. So just be mindful. but for now, bias is bearish for dollar CAD. Let's take a look at silver here. So silver, not much of a move today. Price went in both directions here. There is some bullishness in this, so we could see price go higher. Bias is neutral to bullish here. If it does not go through the resistance, then it could drop back down. So watch out for that. But once it clears the resistance here, we're looking at 17.75. And should it go through that, then we're looking at 17.90. So bias is bullish to neutral here for silver. Gold here, gold is looking quite neutral at this point. I would look for a retest of the high of 1732, and if it goes through, 1745. So neutral bias here for gold as well. If it holds below 1732, in that case, I would be looking for a move back down. So at this point, this resistance level is very important. As we can see, price has reacted at this level several times before. So if it holds below, looking for a move back down. Should it go through, I'm looking for it to retest this 1745 area again. Oil here, oil has gone up, and this is why we have seen Canadian dollar do better today. So right now, bias is bullish. Next target here is, so the first target will be the high of today, which is 39.20 and then 40.50. So bullish bias for oil. Copper here, copper traded in both directions. This is neutral, as we have seen many other things do as well. In this case, I am looking at 2.54. I will look for a pullback potentially into 2.54. And if it holds below, we're looking for another drop here. So in this case, the first target is 2.49 and then 2.46. So neutral to bearish bias here for copper. Bitcoin here, Bitcoin is looking neutral. Now it has been stuck in this little narrow range for a little bit. So if it holds below 95.30, then I'm looking for a drop. So this is hitting this strong resistance level, and we could see a drop. So bias is neutral here. In terms of neutral to bearish, I should say. And first target is 91.80 and then 90.50. So bearish to neutral, or neutral to bearish is what I'm looking for here. And then S&P 500 here, bias is still bullish. It has moved up today, although it did bounce off of the highs there, but still looking bullish. And next target here will be 32.11. So bullish bias here for for S&P 500. Nasdaq as well, still looking bullish here. And next target is 10,100 and then 10,150. So bias is bullish. And then we have DAX here. DAX is bullish to neutral here. There's a large pin on the top. So if price is not able to go through this 26,780 level, this one could turn around. So watch out for that. Bias is bullish to neutral for Dow Jones here. Now, one thing to keep in mind would be the testimony from Powell. However, another thing to bear in mind would also be what's going on with the coronavirus. So we have heard that Beijing has seen an uptick in the number of coronavirus cases. They have shut down parts of the city. So they have also shut down schools. And if this continues, we could see we could see the markets drop as a result of that, as risk comes back into the market. So that's something to be careful about. But for now, this one is bullish to neutral as well. And then DAX here is looking quite neutral. I will look for a retest of 12,450, which is the high here. And If it doesn't go through, we could see a drop again. So we just have to, with the stock markets, we just have to be careful with the coronavirus. So right now the market is ignoring all the risk that is generated by the second or the resurgence of the coronavirus, or a second wave of the coronavirus that we are seeing in Japan and China. So if that continues on, or if the risk sentiment continues on like that, where it starts to get more risky, then that will be negative for the markets. If the markets ignores it, then it can continue on. But I think it will become more important as we move forward, and if the number of coronavirus cases keep on growing. And we have seen in the US as well, the 6 states that have opened their, the numbers are really high as well. So that's something else that could change the sentiment in the markets. At this point, this one is looking neutral as well. I will look for a retest of 6,300. If it holds below, then we're looking for a drop. Otherwise, next target here would be 6,400. So bias is neutral for FTSE. And Nikkei here, we see Nikkei is bullish right now. It is into resistance. So if we see that price stays below this 22,620 level, it can come back down. So right now, bullish to neutral. And if it goes through today's resistance, and then we're looking at 23,000 as the next target. So bias is neutral to bullish. So that's it for today. I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye for now.